Hello everybody, are you ready for our next set of chapters from Running on the Roof of the World? Where we left it last time, Tash had noticed that there was somebody high up above them. If you remember, they'd slidden down the glacier and they were about to go back to where the Yaks were, and Tash noticed that there was somebody there. So chapter 33, Leader. I stopped thinking. I just want Eve and Bones to be safe. My legs slip up the glacier. 3 figures watch us scramble up. I claw at the ice, pulling myself up faster. It could be soldiers, says Sam, and if they are, we're outnumbered. His heavy breaths are right behind me. I don't slow down. All I know is I have to protect the Yaks. I made a promise to Manny. I'm shaking with frustration. I let myself get distracted, laughing and playing while they sneak up on us. I heave myself onto the ridge. We're surrounded by hooded figures, but they're not soldiers. They're nomads. But where's the backpack? I can't see it. I whip my head round and catch the glint of the copper prayer bowl in the sun. Our bags are on the ground with the contents spilling out all over onto the snow. I remember Jimper's warning about nomads being paid to be informers. Sam catches up, leaning over to get his breath back. Tash, he whispers in my ear, get away from them. I shake him off. They have my backpack. The letter is in the front pocket. The snow lion leaflet is in the main compartment. Wait, says a man. Then he carries himself in. The way he carries himself is different and distinctive. He stands up tall and straight. He must be their leader. We've been expecting you, he says. Sam and I look at each other. What do you mean? Asks Sam. Don't you have something for us? He narrows his eyes and turns a compass over and over in his palm. No, says Sam. The nomads shuffle back and forth, whispering together and gazing around us. Is it just you boys here? The leader asks. I'm puzzled for a second and then I nod, remembering my disguise. Where did you get this backpack from? Asks the leader. We found it on the route, says Sam quickly. Thought it might be useful. The leader watches us closely, as if he's trying to determine if we're telling the truth. Thank you, he says eventually. You might not realise it, but you've delivered something very important. I feel Sam looking at me. I know we're both thinking the same thing. Is it the letter? What do you mean, I ask. It's dangerous out here. We could be watched. Let's get everyone back to camp. He nods towards his men and avoids the question. Come and stay with us. Have a proper meal. I hesitate, unsure whether he can be trusted. But one thing I do know is that I have to keep the backpack safe. If they are informers, then it's all the evidence they need. The nomads lead us over a ridge and then steeply down between 2 cliff edges. It's dark, cold and wet. I map our movements in my mind. With every step down, we're going further and further away from the Dalai Lama. We would have to be able to get back to here. You and your yaks look like you could do with some food. Have you been on the road for a while? A few days. I clench my teeth. I'm not giving them too much information. We emerge into a clearing. 2 rectangular white tents stand side by side on the flat ground next to a barren mountain. Beyond it, a herd of yaks graze in front of a lake shaped like a butterfly. It's mostly frozen, but I receive the reflection of the sky and the clouds in the watery parts. Stepping on the patches of pasture, I wonder how long it would take to know the mountains this well, to be able to find the glacial lakes and the grass within the rocky emptiness. Chapter 34, Nomads. Eve and Bones are led off to join the herd, and we're taken closer to one of the tents. It glows brightly with the symbol of the endless knot painted on the side. There's a fire in the middle, and it's instantly warm when we step inside. Patterned rugs overlap each other on the floor. Cooking equipment hangs from hooks in the back corner. Our supply bags are added to a heap on the floor. We sit cross-legged on the rugs. A man places steaming cups of butter tea and a piece of yak's cheese in front of us. I slide Dad's heavy coat off and fold it behind me. I remove my hat and my hair tumbles down around my ears. I catch the leader staring at me quizzically. Sam pokes my foot and I put my hat back on. Sam takes a sip of tea. I sniff it and my stomach rumbles. I dip my tongue and it tastes like home. The buttery, salty broth warms my body, and before I can stop myself, I've gulped it all down. Throughout the day, the tent is a flurry of activity, with the clanking of cooking pots and the boiling of broth. One man feeds the fire in the centre of the tent. The comforting smell of stew makes my stomach turn with hunger and reminds me of my house. Afternoon turns into evening, and a nomad with a damaged foot limps over, carrying a tray with bowls of food on it. I'm puzzled. I didn't expect them to take such good care of us. It makes me want to trust them, to spill everything and ask for their help, but it's too risky. There are 5 people in the tent now, settling down to sleep on sheepskin rugs. I curl up, pretending to be asleep, and observe them through my half-closed eyes. When the only noise left in the tent is the slow snoring of the nomads, I nudge Sam, and he pulls his penknife from his belt. In one swift movement, he stabs the bottom of the tent. Dragging his hand across, he slits the seam of the tent. It tears loudly. One of the sleeping men coughs and rolls over. "Go," mouths Sam. I nod and tiptoe towards the backpack. Seizing it, I check inside and the letter is gone. I see papers on top of one table in the tent and shuffle towards it. The leaflet is there, wedged between the pages of a book. "Yes," I whisper, tucking it back into my pocket. I spot our supply bags neatly stacked next to the table. We'd never survive without them. I seize the string round our bags and lift them as quickly as I can. I bump into a leg of the table and stumble. The nomad shifts position, but his eyes are shut. I stay as still as a statue of Buddha. Sam holds up the side of the tent. It creates a draft of icy air. He beckons at me to follow him. "I haven't got the letter," I mouth at him. "Leave it," he hisses. "They won't know what it is." My forearm burns with the weight, and I tremble as I creep back to Sam. Sam dashes forward, grabs the bags, and ushers me in front of him. I duck and roll underneath the cover. The air is cold and I can see my breath. I wait for my eyes to adjust to the darkness. "Quick," says Sam. I pull myself away from the tent towards the yaks, who are casting long shadows in front of me. We creep forwards on our hands and knees, dragging the bags behind us. My skin grazes against the stones. I scan the yak field. There's a lookout guard sitting on the other side. His head is tipped in a weightless way that tells me he's asleep. I tug Sam's leg and we stand slowly, not making a sound. The yaks are free in the herd. I spot Eve immediately. She's the smallest of them. I run towards her. My feet rustle the grass. Bones is close by. The white stripe across his eyes is lit up by the moon. "Eve," I whisper, "it's me." She munches on the piles of cut grass. A small, untouched bundle lies next to her. "Get that grass," I whisper to Sam. Several of the resting yaks have heaved themselves up, swishing their horns from side to side. "Let's go, Eve," I say. Chapter 35. Pursuit. Eve pads across the grassy carpet and Bones tags after her. We hurry onwards. We soon reach the snow where the landscape is flooded by an eerie greyness. It's only then that I sneak a look behind us. There's a light moving in the distance. "Someone's following us," I say. Sam glances at the light. "We have to stay ahead then," he smiles. "Why are you grinning?" I ask. He unfurls his fingers. A circular object drops and swings from his fingertips. It's the compass. "How did you get that?" I ask. "The leader dropped it near us. I hid it with my feet. He didn't notice." "Sam," I say, hugging him, You star! I clasp it in my hands, spinning the compass around until the arrows matches north. We're heading west, going in the right direction. Do you think they were informers? I ask. Yeah, he says, and they're as bad as the snipers. He grimaces, jutting his chin out, and steps forward with his jaw clenched and a new determination in his stride. We stare at each other. I've seen that look before, the same expression as the man on fire. I fight to not let my mind go back there again, amongst the flames and the screaming people. I focus on my boots. I've learned that looking at one detail of my surroundings can help keep me grounded. My mind wanders to the code. Yaks will fly. Yaks will fly. Yaks will fly. Why couldn't Dad just have told me what was going on? I say, frustration prickling down the back of my neck. He was trying to protect you, to keep you safe, Sam answers softly. With the compass, we move more quickly. I take the lead, staring down at the arrow. Sam shakes his head. This is harder than I expected. Thousands of people have made this crossing. They even said that the Dalai Lama did it when he fled Tibet. It sounded easy. No one can call this easy, I say. I look at the dark shadow of the mountains, its sheer granite walls and endless stretches of ice glaciers. I pray that we've got all the bad luck over with. We walk alongside the precipice, a deep slit in the earth. As we get further away, lost in the mountains, it becomes hard to imagine the way home. I never want to walk this much again, says Sam. Once we've rested, it'll be easier, I reply, thinking about the journey back. Maybe the Dalai Lama will send us home in our own plane. I rehearse how I'll tell him about the soldiers and my parents being taken. I'm not sure that the Dalai Lama can do things like that, says Sam. I shrug. Dad'll sort it all out. Sam grows silent. Do you ever worry that we won't be able to go back? I think of Manny and Sam's dad, of Dorji, his sister, and everyone else at home. If we can make it to India, I say, then somehow we'll be able to get back. Sam strokes Bones' nose. Spotting a crossing over the precipice, I run and kneel by it. A rickety small bridge rope hangs across the 6-foot crack in the ground. Will it hold the weight of the axe? I ask. Sam crouches and presses down on the first wooden slat. It swings and creaks. Underneath is the deepest darkness. Sam crawls onto it. I hold my breath, only able to wait and watch. The first slat cracks but doesn't break, and Sam inches forward. Finally, he reaches the snow on the other side. That slat is thin, he says, standing. The rest are strong enough. Sam calls Bones and gently tugs him across. The wood groans underneath them. Once they're over, Sam spins, beckoning. It's my turn. I tread on the plank and feel it swing. Quick, Eve, I say, leading her behind me. I'm sure that the bridge is going to collapse any second. I sink to my hands and knees and clasp the wooden edges. My skin is dry and my knuckles are cracked. I edge forward without looking down, pressing on the last slat with my knees. I hear it split and I dive onto the ground. Sam darts towards Eve. I turn to see the slat dangling down in two halves. Eve straddles the broken pieces, front hooves on the ground, back hooves resting on the slat before. She lifts her back leg into the air, searching for solid ground. Her hoof touches the snow, then slips. I jump up and clutch her head and horns. Pull, says Sam, reaching for her harness. I dig my foot into the snow for anchorage and try to shift Eve's centre of weight towards us. She grunts, bends her front legs, and heaves herself thankfully off the bridge, stumbling onto the snow. You're safe, I say, stroking her neck and feeling her heartbeat race. I've learned to read Eve like she's my sister. Every grunt tells me if she's tired, hungry, or just wants attention. I curl up to her every night. My lips are too raw to whistle, but if I tilt my head, she knows to follow. I spread the grass we took from the nomads in front of the yaks, and they finish it all in one go. We let Eve calm down before nudging her onwards. I picture what we look like from a distance. Boy yak, girl yak, 4 tiny figures crossing the vertical sheer rock mountain, all striving to blend into the wilderness, because no matter how hard I try, I can't shake the feeling that we are being followed. Chapter 36. Thunder. That evening, Eve starts limping. I pull her leg up and examine her hoof, as I've seen Manny do. I couldn't see any signs of damage. I'm becoming an expert at pushing thoughts out of my head, but every now and then the image of a man surrounded by flames comes rushing back. Why do you think he did it? I ask Sam. The man on fire, I mean. If you protest peacefully, the soldiers take you away, he says, folding his arms across his chest. It's the same thing in the end, except that more people will pay attention. It's harder to hide that kind of protest from the outside. I stare at him. I'm sure there are other ways, I say. There have to be. You don't understand. Sam has a glazed look on his face. He wanted to protect us. It was a form of protest. He thought if people realised how bad it was, then they would do something about it. But he hasn't protected us, I say. He was the reason Mum and Dad was taken. It's his fault. It wasn't, Tash. It was the soldiers and the rules and everything else. Don't blame him. He's someone I don't recognise, full of a new anger that scares me. We always understood each other before. I touch the photograph in my coat, wishing Mum and Dad were here. They'd know what to say. Thunder rumbles over the mountains. Unless we find somewhere to camp soon, we're going to be caught in a storm. I think about making a snow cave, but it's too much effort, and we'd never be able to fit the axe in anyway. Big raindrops of freezing water sting my ears, and water drips into my collar. I shiver, tightening my hood around my face. The clouds hang low in the sky, swallowing the moon and stars. There's a crack as lightning strikes. For a split second it illuminates the white snow around us. 1 elephant, 2 elephant, 3 thunder booms. It shakes through my body. It's close, I shout to Sam. Sam passes me Bones' lead. He scrambles up a small ridge. What are you doing? I shout. You'll be hit by lightning. A bolt forks out of the sky like a purple branch reaching out to the clouds. Sam, I shout, get down! I can see a cave, he yells, just over there. It's not much further. Thunder claps above me. Bones pulls on the lead, stepping backwards with wide eyes. This way, says Sam, taking Bones and beckoning me towards the ridge. I walk, but Eve refuses to move. Just a bit further, I say, tugging at the lead. She limps and nudges my hand with her cold, wet nose. Come on, Eve, I say, stroking her head. Icicles cling to the ends of her matted hair. Tash, yells Sam, shining a torch on me. Get in here. I wrap my arms around Eve's head, cover her ears, and push her forwards. And we'll do chapter 37, Mandala, next time. Looking forward to see everybody on the 8th. Bye for now.